a blind man looking for the outhouse in a fog, man.
Knock on wood if you like that.
I said, Goose, I want my restitution. You
Kiss the Baby is basically a statement similar to when the fat lady sings.
Shithead! Shithead!
Because if you go like a puppy, stay on the porch!
Do we understand what the I want to see tomorrow? Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Hard Knocks used to be an institution, must-watch TV on HBO for 5 nights a year. And now, over 2 decades into its existence, HBO and NFL Films are struggling to find a willing subject to be featured on the show. Even worse, it feels like Hard Knocks has gotten stale, cliched, derivative, just not as revelatory or as groundbreaking as it once was. What happened to the best sports documentary on TV, and why are teams so resistant to letting the cameras in? And will it ever return to its original glory? Today, we find out. Maybe. Today's show is sponsored by MagicSpoon.com/thatsgood. I've never wanted to be a magician, but once I started eating Magic Spoon, I could suddenly do this. Vegas residency, here I come. Look, I started eating Magic Spoon a couple years ago. I had to eliminate eggs from my diet, which meant I had to change my breakfast routine. I chose Magic Spoon because 1, it was high in protein with 13 to 14 grams in each serving, and this bod needs its fuel. It also contains no artificial ingredients. It was the perfect gluten-free, grain-free, high-protein option that had OG sugar. Wait, sorry, zero sugar. That's the best part, and the cereal tastes amazing, which is why I've continued to eat it all these years. My secret is to mix the peanut butter and chocolate together. If you want to try this wholesomely delicious combo, click my link below and use my code THATSGOOD for $5 off, or go to magicspoon.com/thatsgood. If for some reason, though, you're not happy with Magic Spoon, they'll always refund your money. Something my football team definitely didn't do for me. Originally, Hard Knocks was pitched as the NFL's version of The Real World. Not to be confused when NFL host Kyle Brandt was actually on The Real World.
Did you feel like I was treating you differently tonight because I had friends here?
Players were wired for sound. Dedicated cameramen and robotic cameras were sprinkled around the team facility. 30 hours of daily footage cut down to just a few entertaining minutes. It kicked off in 2001 with one of the most fascinating, entertaining teams we've ever gotten to spend time with. The 2001 Ravens were just a few months removed from a dominant Super Bowl performance and featured a cast of characters like Shannon Sharpe, Ray Lewis, and the late Tony Siragusa. It was on HBO, set in Baltimore, and had a star named Tony. It was like The Wire and The Sopranos birthed an NFL baby. The fact that it was on HBO is what made it so good. The story wasn't marred by commercial breaks, and it was able to properly showcase football culture without censorship. It was our first real, unfiltered look into what life looked like in an NFL training camp. The sweltering practices, the brutality of getting cut, and the camaraderie that exists in an NFL locker room.
This key, I need the thing stocked like every day with water. Okay. And then I'll give you some more money for beer later on.
Gotcha.
All right?
Sounds good.
Keep it full.
Okay.
Nice, well.
It showed rookies cutting their teeth as they tried to make it in the NFL, a real quarterback competition between Elvis Gruden and Randall Cunningham, and one of the best Shannon Sharpe impressions you'll ever see.
You humiliated me, dude, on national television, so I want restitution.
Well, yeah, I knew that Goose had something to do with that, and I told Goose then, I said, Goose, I want my restitution. You
It It's actually pretty jarring to go back and watch that first season of Hard Knocks, watching a lower production value but a more unedited, more real look into life at the top, as well as on the fringes of the NFL, seeing just how unforgiving it can be in the pros.
Back in the day, you had guys go AWOL on you. You don't see it too often anymore because camps aren't as hard, but every now and then you get a guy walk out on camp on you.
Hey man, where's your roommate at? What happened to your roommate?
I don't know.
Where'd he go?
Before then, most sports documentaries were told in retrospect. Series like Ken Burns' Baseball told the history of the sport, but they lacked the access that HBO and NFL Films was granted, showing a real-time look at the inner workings of an NFL franchise that fans could only speculate on prior to the cameras making their way into the building.
Grab a seat. It doesn't make any difference to you, but I've sat there myself twice. It's not easy. It's the worst part of what I have to do.
That peek behind the curtain was really only something a fan could consume through sports writers via their works in newspapers across the country. And we all know reading is just fucking boring. After Hard Knocks ran it back in 2002 with the Dave Campbell Cowboys, the show went on hiatus for 5 years.
You've got to lose some weight in your stomach. And I know that sometimes y'all don't think you need to, but you need to, okay?
Returning with the Kansas City Chiefs in 2007. The most memorable season of Hard Knocks still belongs to the 2010 New York Jets.
Yeah, Alonzo, who was 5. I have Karras, who was 3.
The fuck out my drill. What's that?
Take that helmet off out here. You know that.
It's practice. You can't find me today.
My junior, which is 3. I have my daughter, who just turned 3 as of yesterday.
Let's make sure we play like the New York Jets. That's what I want to see tomorrow.
I have another son named Tyler. I got another daughter that was born October 16th named London.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Another daughter that was born named Leilani, who's 2 years old.
Hard Knocks hit gold, showing us a team that was both as entertaining and competitive as the original Ravens.
I have my newborn with my wife. Her name is Jerry.
The lockout in the NFL 1 year later changed things, though. They weren't able to film in 2011, but the 2012 season featured a gut-wrenching scene where Chad Johnson was cut on camera.
Best for both of us that, we kind of part ways at this point in time.
But soon after, it felt like teams were putting up walls to circumvent the access to the public. In 2013, the NFL instituted guidelines for who was and who was not eligible for Hard Knocks. Essentially, if you had made the playoffs in the last 2 seasons, if you had been on the show in the past decade, or if you had a new head coach, you didn't have to be on the show. Basically, the NFL every year eliminated some of the teams that would be the most interesting teams to follow. And we were forced to spend a training camp with the 2014 Falcons.
Some guys play golf, some guys do lots of other things, but Matt likes fish.
If the NFL wants to save Hard Knocks, they have to change those guidelines. Imagine how interesting it would be if the Denver Broncos, with their new head coach last year in Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson, were 2022's mid-season Hard Knocks team instead of the Arizona Cardinals.
I've really enjoyed making love to your ears.
Both very bad teams, but one was interesting. Now, we've gotten compelling moments since then, since that Falcons season. Rookie Jared Goff learning about the orientation of the sun relative to the earth.
Where does the sun rise? I just learned this recently. Where does the sun? Trick question? Oh.
There was a memorable fight between the Texans and Washington.
Get out of there! Hey! Get out of there!
Carl Nassib giving investment tips to his teammates.
You double your money every 7 years for 42 years. You get 64 times your original money.
Antonio Brown saga in Oakland.
What the hell's going on, man?
Just a villain all over the news, man.
And of course,
in turf, we'll go to landfill. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes, I will beat your ass.
But Hard Knocks has become a show predicated on viral moments.
You know what I mean, buddy boy?
That are more compelling than the narrative itself. That's a problem. And while that might be good for social media, I don't think it makes for a great overall show. Personally, I think Hard Knocks hit an all-time low in the year 2020, when it simultaneously followed the Rams and Chargers in LA. Now, I commend the show for airing that season because there were a ton of challenges and limited access because of COVID. We desperately needed something as new entertainment was running dry because of the pandemic. But even as an entertainment-starved person, I was profoundly bored by that season. In 2021, Hard Knocks also began following teams around mid-season, giving us a look at the Colts battling for a playoff spot, and then giving us a first-hand account of the Cardinals' massive collapse just a season ago. In theory, the mid-season Hard Knocks should have been TV gold, and the Colts season certainly wasn't bad, but the Cardinals were so rudderless in 2022 that you almost felt bad watching them crash and burn before your very eyes. They didn't nail the in-season format like Amazon did in 2015 when they covered Bruce Arians and the Cardinals on their way to the NFC Championship game. A genuinely likable team, a charismatic coach, and an excellent all-around team. It was a perfect confluence of NFL entertainment. Plus, you had Jon Hamm's sultry narration to draw in a female audience. Or horny men. Me. I would fuck Jon Hamm is what I'm saying. Don't believe me? Why do you think I keep this autographed photo of him under my pillow? Unfortunately, All or Nothing on Amazon only lasted 5 seasons, and we've yet to get a 6th after again COVID screwed everything up. The lesson though, for the mid-season Hard Knocks is any team should be fair game, which would allow HBO to choose one with a compelling story or characters or situation to highlight. As of right now, ahead of the 2023 season, we have a handful of teams eligible for Hard Knocks, but it seems like there's more resistance to the cameras than ever before. The Jets, Saints, Commanders, and Bears all fit the criteria for being forced into Hard Knocks, and HBO reportedly reached out to the Lions about doing the show for a second consecutive season with them. That just goes to show Dan Campbell truly is a leading man.
And if I absolutely knew we could get to where we need to get without ever putting pads on, I'd do it, I swear to you.
And that would give Goff his 4th stint on Hard Knocks. Sadly, the Lions declined the opportunity to be on there a second straight year.
These backers are going to do this to you. That's what they're going to do.
Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk speculated that the NFL might need to cut a deal in order for a team to appear on Hard Knocks, enticing the team with a quid pro quo agreement that involves that team hosting a Super Bowl or the draft. I don't see the league hinging the Super Bowl location on a Hard Knocks appearance, but I do think that some sort of incentive might be in the future. A feasible idea, I don't know, giving them an extra $10 million in salary cap space, or a suspension reduction for any player of their choosing. Hell, just an extra roster spot, and brand it as the Hard Knocks man. Yeah. Last year was a good season of Hard Knocks, but it didn't have a lot of depth. If not for Dan Campbell running the show and giving us sound bites about one ass cheek and 3 toes, I don't think it would have been particularly memorable. Jamal Williams was fun to follow around, but I don't think he was highlighted nearly enough. Simply, there weren't a ton of other characters worth spending time with. It could be that we don't respond the same way to Hard Knocks after so long because, well, it's been so long. We've gotten used to the same tropes, the same beats, the same montages, the same angles every season. Despite being a show that's filmed, edited, and released in the same week, Hard Knocks is already out of date by the time it airs. There's usually a coach that curses more than you would have expected. There's a starting quarterback dealing with pressure or stardom, and there's a handful of long shots trying to hang onto their NFL dreams. That's generally a compelling story, but not after the 15th time. it might be time for HBO to try a new approach to the series, which of course they've already been experimenting with the in-season version. Maybe all the rookies try to solve a true crime mystery. How about Hard Knocks AFC one year and Hard Knocks NFC the next? 1 week with each team throughout the season. Hard Knocks follows a single division for an entire season. Hard Knocks AFC West. 4 film crews, 4 teams, 1 new episode every week. Hard Knocks officials. I would watch that. At a certain point, Hard Knocks stopped being the most entertaining inside look at the world of football. In 2016, we got Last Chance U on Netflix, a series I consider more honest and entertaining than any season of Hard Knocks we've ever seen. That's not necessarily HBO's fault. There's just a lot more inherent drama in a show about kids barely surviving community college than there is about a bunch of professionals living out their dreams. And the players and coaches weren't as guarded, they hadn't been through media training, they didn't have handlers, and we got a lot of raw moments as a result. Of course, Last Chance U didn't last either, just 5 seasons and it was over. Ultimately, the crew decided they had gotten all they needed out of covering JUCO football and decided to move on to basketball. And that's admirable, to know when it's time to move on. While better shows come and go, Hard Knocks keeps holding on to their bread and butter. And just like The Simpsons, that butter has lost its flavor. And now Netflix is soon to air its new show, Quarterback, which followed Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Marcus Mariota last season. I think a more focused approach like that could also work for Hard Knocks if it retooled itself. Essentially, it comes down to this. We've lost the drama through the years with Hard Knocks because teams, players, and coaches have become self-aware. Which leads me to the final thing that's killed Hard Knocks. Its problem is access. Not the access it has to the team and players, but the access every NFL player has to an audience via their own social media channels, and now podcasts and shows. If a player is going to reveal something, they're going to do it on their own platform. The Kelsey brothers have a podcast. Tyreek Hill has a podcast.
What's the weirdest smell you have ever smelled?
Hey, bro, I ain't gonna lie. Y'all ever like right behind your ear and then smelled it?
Nah.
Somebody told me to do that in high school and I did it. It smelled bad, I ain't gonna lie to you.
They are active and big players. Rookies like Sauce Gardner launched their own YouTube channels, documenting their own stories, telling it their way.
This is what they fucking do.
Players now have more control than ever over their narrative, directly to the audience without an intermediary. HBO has to figure out how to give us something we can't get from a player via their YouTube channel or Twitter or Instagram. I always forget about old Instagram. We are desperate for access, and the NFL and its teams, they just don't give it to us on Hard Knocks anymore. And maybe most unfortunately, the only way Hard Knocks can save itself is to be more invasive for teams and players' privacy, and I'm not sure that will ever happen. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Clearly the only way Hard Knocks can save itself is if they name me executive producer of the show. Subscribe here on YouTube and check out this video on the screen.